If you just moved to Halifax and you're already scrolling through listings, there's something that nobody's telling you. Yes, you can buy a home here without years of Canadian credit history. I work with new Canadians every single week, and a lot of them are from Nigeria and the Philippines, and almost every single one of them comes to me thinking that they need to rent for 2 years, 3 years first before they can even try owning a home. That's simply not true. In the next few minutes, I'm gonna walk you through exactly what you need, what it actually costs, and the one mistake that costs new Canadian buyers the most money in this market. If you're new to Canada and thinking about buying a home here, email me at loganexprealty@gmail.com. I'll walk you through exactly where to start based off your situation. Let's start with the myth, because it's the thing that stops most new Canadian buyers before they even try to purchase their first home here. Most people think a bank won't talk to them without 2 or 3 years of Canadian credit history and a long work record here. That's not how it actually works for most newcomers. If you have permanent residency or a valid working permit and a job offer, several major banks run mortgage programs built specifically for newcomers to Canada. Some of them will qualify you with as little as 3 months of Canadian credit history, as long as you can show alternative proof like your international credit history, your pay stubs, or a steady savings pattern. So what do you actually need? 4 things really. Proof of income, whether that's pay stubs or a signed job offer. Proof of status, your PR card is a great example, or your work permit or confirmation of permanent residency, a down payment, and a savings pattern if you don't have Canadian credit built up yet. That's completely normal, and it's not a deal breaker. None of this means every newcomer qualifies right away, and I won't pretend otherwise. If you just landed here and haven't started working yet, you may genuinely need a few months before a lender will look at your file seriously. What I'm telling you is that the timeline is usually shorter than what people assume, and it's worth finding out your real numbers instead of just guessing and ruling yourself out altogether. On the down payment, it's worth knowing that Nova Scotia has programs implemented for first-time home buyers to ease up on what first-time buyers need. A mortgage broker can walk you through your exact numbers on your specific situation. Now, that's not something I'll guess at for you on camera right now. And you shouldn't trust anyone who does, because everyone's situation is going to be different. But here's a question I get asked constantly. Should you just rent for a year or 2 first to get settled? And sometimes the answer is yes, especially if your income isn't steady yet. But I've also watched people rent for 3 years, waiting to feel ready while paying down somebody else's mortgage instead of their own. If your documents and your down payment are in order, waiting isn't always doing you any favors. That's a conversation worth having early on in the process, not after you've already signed a second lease. Now, where people are actually settling, Clayton Park is one of the most multicultural neighborhoods in HRM, and it's a natural landing spot for a lot of newcomers. It's close to amenities, close to transit, and there's already a real community there. But it's not the only option, and it shouldn't be the default just because it's familiar. I work across all of HRM, Halifax, Bedford, Dartmouth, Fall River, Fairmount, and I'm licensed to be a realtor across all of Nova Scotia for special cases too. The right neighborhood really comes down to your commute, your budget, and whether you're looking to buy a house or a condo, not just focusing on what other people did or what other people happen to live already. It also helps to think about the community around the home, not just focusing on the home itself. Faith communities, grocery stores, school zones, cultural events, all of that matters the first year in a new city to make it easier to find your sense of home and sense of footing. So Starting to tour neighborhoods and driving around is crucial, so you're not just focusing on square footage, you're focusing what fits your lifestyle. So here's what the process actually looks like. First, get pre-approved. This is the single most important step because it tells you your real numbers before you fall in love with a home that you actually are financially stretched for. Second, work with somebody who actually understands newcomers. I've seen deals fall apart at the finish line simply because the person guiding them didn't know how to work with alternate credit documents. Third, you make an offer and get a proper home inspection. I'd never skip this step, and neither should you. No matter how much you want the place, a lot of the housing stock across HRM involves older homes. So I want eyes on the foundation, the roof, the heating system before we're committed, not after we have the keys and everything starts falling apart. Fourth, you move towards closing, which is when your lawyer walks you through the paperwork and the closing costs. Things like the legal fees and your deed transfer cost. None of this is more complicated than a typical home purchase. It just needs someone who's done it before to help you with files like yourself. One more thing worth knowing, not every newcomer mortgage program is priced the same way, and the rates you're offered can vary more than people expect. A broker who actually shops several newcomer programs instead of pitching you on the first one on the shelf can be the difference of real money over the life of your mortgage. Ask whoever you're working with how many lenders they're comparing for you, not just which one they're recommending. Here's the biggest mistake I see. Working with a lender or an agent that doesn't actually understand a newcomer file and watching the financing collapse midway through a deal. That's devastating after weeks of house hunting, and it's almost always avoidable. I recently helped buyer clients land a lower price square footage home than the other half of the owned semi-detached home just by knowing the market and negotiating for them properly. I've got a couple I'm working with right now who just started their search, brand new to Halifax, and the question they kept coming back to me isn't, can we afford this? The question that they were asking was, will this actually feel like home? That's the real question underneath all the financing talks, and it's the one that I care about most. One last thing before you buy. Budget beyond the mortgage payment. Things like property taxes, home insurance, and utility bills are all things that a landlord thinks about automatically, and a first-time home buyer sometimes doesn't, especially if property tax works differently than wherever you're coming from. Ask your agent to walk you through the full monthly picture, not just the mortgage numbers, before you commit to any sort of price range. A maximum budget and a maximum comfort zone are two separate numbers. So if you're getting ready to buy, here's what I'd do first. Get pre-approved before you start touring homes. Find someone who can actually walk you through how new Canadians buy and go through this process. And don't be afraid to ask direct questions about financing early on, because the sooner you know where you stand, the sooner you can start looking at homes with real confidence. Buying a home in a new country is about more than a transaction, and I don't treat it like one. I'm in your corner on day one, and I mean that. If you're a new Canadian getting ready to buy in Halifax, email me directly at loganexprealty@gmail.com. I'll go through your specific situation with you, no pressure at all, and we'll figure out exactly where you stand. If you want to know more about your budget and what it actually buys you in this market, watch my video on buying a home in 2026. It's linked right here. And if you need to get a hold of me without using email, my number and information's below. Again, don't hesitate to reach out today.